Yeah. How y'all doing, buddy? Do what now? I tore my hamstring. I've been at physical therapy. Just say, how you feeling? Did I rip my shoulder? Hey, all right. Hey. Hey, now ask me how you do. I was sitting there watching. Didn't know about 10, but still. Slater, they feel like it was. As a matter of fact,
good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock on June 20th, 2022. And I'm very happy that all of you are here present for this meeting of the Conway City Council. I hereby call it to order. Madam Clerk, have we satisfied the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. All of our city council members are present, so we have a quorum and we will move forward. Our invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Pastor Matt Wilson of Ecclesia Church. Thank you so much for being here.
Father God, we come to you thanking you because you have blessed us with an amazing city that we live in. Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you bring into our community. And we ask that your hands stay over it. God, guide us as we have a community that opens its arms and loves well and takes care to preserve itself. Father, protect us and watch over us. And God, be with the proceedings tonight. Father, we pray that you are glorified and that you continue to bless our leaders, and we thank you for them. We thank you for their guidance and for their wisdom. And we thank you for them being able to hear the body. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. What is the will of the council relative to approving the agenda? Mr. Hyman,
Mayor, I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda.
thank you. Is there a second? Mr. White?
Second.
Thank you. We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda. All in favor, please indicate so by showing your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And relative to the consent agenda, what is the will of the council? Mr. White? I'm so
I
sorry.
move that we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you. Ms. Butler? We have a properly seconded motion to also approve the consent agenda as it is set forth. All in favor, indicate so with your right hand. That motion also carries unanimously. Item 5 is public input. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak before this council on almost any subject. The exception being that it has to do with an individual employee. Of course, that would have to be taken up in a more private venue. You're allotted 5 minutes. And public input is not interactive. There may be something that's one of us just feels a great need to spurt out to answer a question. But for the most part, we will just listen. The city administrator may even hand you a business card for one of the employees that would be best suited to do follow up with you. I know that 2 people have signed. I'm sorry, 3 people. So in this order, we will hear from Sherry Cannon of Closet Envy regarding construction on 3rd Avenue and Laurel. Reverend Cheryl Adamson regarding Whittemore Elementary School, and Hillary Howard of Downtown Alive, in that order, please. When you come forward, if you would give us your name, I'm going to ask you to speak directly into the microphone. People who are listening on the internet have a lot of difficulty hearing us, and people in the rear of the auditorium do as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And please indicate whether or not you live in the city limits.
Yes, ma'am, I do. Madam Mayor and Council, my name is Sherry Cannon. I'm the owner of Closet Envy Ladies Resale Boutique at 310
Ma'am.
Wall Street.
We're going to get you a little help with that mic because even I can't hear you now. Thanks for your sense of humor.
Okay. My name is Sherry Cannon. I'm the owner of Closet Envy Ladies Resale Boutique at 310 Laurel Street. Opened my store in February 2021 and had steady growth every week up until the construction at the 3rd Avenue and Laurel Street. Resale businesses are one of the top growing categories and thriving in this economy. But during the last few months, I've taken a major financial loss of thousands of dollars in comparison to this time last year. I will be forced to close my business at the end of July if something doesn't change. We have already lost a lot of spring visitors and local customers that cannot get to us. And now summer is going to be over in just a few weeks. I won't survive the winter like this. I'm sorry. The handicap spot has been taken up several times for dropping off items to the site. Orange cones are left, and I brought some pictures. Orange cones are left on the white line between parking spots to save them for later until workers return. The porta potty smells terrible. There's trash and cigarettes thrown on the ground daily into the water drains and under the tunnel. This morning, the big construction sign was laying in the handicap spot for over 3 hours after the supervisor arrived on the job site. It is almost impossible to see through the tunnel to the other businesses in the area, and there's always trash under there. There will be no need for the tunnel as soon as the windows are installed, and there's only a few left to be installed. Removal could start immediately after the last window's in. This is not what downtown Conway is supposed to look like. We've had customers tell us that they drive from other areas just to shop with us. But when the construction started, we were basically shut off from foot traffic from 3rd Avenue because of the scaffolding tunnel and parking spots near my store being full of construction vehicles. There's public parking that could be used for some of these vehicles, including the site supervisor that parks all day. There's also an option for projects could be completed after hours because this is a non-residential area. When the project is finished, there will be multiple parking spots filled with the Airbnb renters for that building. I'm hoping there's a plan in place to urge them to park in other areas that we have public parking. I had no idea the effects of this would so negatively impact my business for this long. Please take this into consideration as you move forward with decisions about this project.
Thank you, ma'am. I just said that this wasn't interactive. It's something that I'll bring up during council input. Ms. Adamson, Reverend Adamson, how are you?
I'm great. How are you all?
Good.
I've had a birthday since I saw you, so I'm really good. I bring you greetings from the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society Incorporated this afternoon on this beautiful and historic holiday. We would like to wish everyone a happy, thoughtful, and purpose-filled Juneteenth. As we all know, Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, commemorates June 19th, 1865, when enslaved Black people in Galveston, Texas, found out that they were free. That day marked more than 2.5 years since the executive order known as the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Abraham Lincoln. The order freed enslaved persons in the Southern Confederate States, but not all enslaved persons on this continent. Since the proclamation was issued as a military measure, it didn't apply to border slave states like Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, and Missouri, all of which were loyal to the Union. Now, I must admit, following a year of nationwide protests against racial injustice in response to the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020, I was hypo-impressed with the signing of the bill making June the 12th federal holiday. I wondered silently and aloud, what good is another holiday when our people are still oppressed? But I must declare emphatically that Juneteenth has opened my eyes afresh to the many promises of God. For those of us who are Christians, we received this promise directly from the mouth of Jesus, found in John chapter 8, verses 31 and 32. If you hold to my teachings, if you continue in my way, then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. As our guest preacher, Reverend Jean-Luc Charles, told us on yesterday, the truth has power. The truth has power. It may be denied, but it doesn't take away its power. As the enslaved in Galveston, Texas learned, it may be delayed, but that doesn't take away truth's power. It has been said that truth is the first casualty of war. But we say, though given up for dead, truth has resurrection power. That truth, the truth and the power of Juneteenth is why we're here today. We last appeared before you 6 months ago to begin the process of reclaiming, preserving, and restoring the great Whittemore Elementary School. At the end of that meeting, we were given 2 years to respond to the RFP for the revitalization of the school and its property. The fact is that 2 years is 8 quarters and 2 quarters have already passed. With 6 quarters remaining, truly time is of the essence. We've come today to report to the council and the community of progress made to date by Whittemore Race Path Historical Society with a promise to return every quarter until we make our final presentation. So among the most pressing steps is the production of a preservation plan, which will serve as a planning and management tool to assemble information about the historic resource that we're trying to preserve. Presently, we are in public engagement, planning, and telling our story. We have presently launched an effort with Coastal Carolina University called Story Makers, which will document the story behind the people and the movement to preserve and restore Whittemore Elementary School. And we are applying for many grants and planning grants with the South Carolina Humanities Council. As we approach county, state, and national entities, both public and private, the question they all ask is, what is the city of Conway doing? We will engage this council further in how we might be able to answer those inquiries affirmatively and in detail going forward. How might we be able to answer those inquiries? Inspired by Juneteenth, we will gain knowledge of our past, insight into our present situation, and we hope to exercise wisdom as we lead the community and the city of Conway into the future, which is Whittemore Elementary School. One story I want to commend to you, I won't give you the details, but at the time of just before Juneteenth, there was a slave who was freed by his enslaver in Virginia. His wife and their children were not. He accompanied his wife and their children to Texas with her enslaver and was re-enslaved because he wanted to be with his family. And he went on to found the first church in Houston, Texas, and the first college. His name is John Henry Yates. I want you to learn about him. That is one of the stories that comes out of Juneteenth. And those are the kind of stories we want to be able to tell through Whittemore Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Hillary Howard, Executive Director, Conway Downtown Alive. Conway Alive fully supports the revitalization of Robert Lewis's property at Laurel Street and 3rd Avenue. The renovation of Mustard Seed is absolutely beautiful, and we're very happy how swiftly that moved. As you discuss the extension of the temporary placement of construction dumpsters and safety fencing in the right-of-way at 3rd Avenue and Laurel Street, we ask that you consider the construction personnel to be good neighbors to this neighborhood. The ongoing litter and construction debris, broken glass, pieces of brick, broken plaster, this all reflects negatively on the businesses in this area. These issues are constantly being addressed by city staff, and we're so thankful for their continued intervention. This section of Laurel Street is 2-hour parking, and construction personnel utilize these parking spaces all day long. A parking space that turns over 5 times a day in a downtown commercial shopping district can generate $175,000 in revenue per space per year. With 4 spaces or $700,000 in parking closed for this great project, we want to affirm that the remaining 28 spaces or $4,900,000 in parking spaces are used to benefit the businesses in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public input?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Priscilla Fuller. I reside at 140 Clark Crossing Drive, Conway, South Carolina. To the mayor and the council, city officials, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon to speak. I was away from Conway for about 30 35 or 40 years and came back. And I was so pleasantly surprised when I came back at the development and all the wonderful things that was happening in Conway. So I know that it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of leadership, and I thoroughly appreciate everything that I'm seeing in Conway. And when I came back, I wanted to give back because that's what we're taught, to give back to our community. So I became involved in the American Red Cross as a disaster worker. I got on the Walkmore Housing Board because it's important for us to give back to the community. So I'm very happy with the development. And I know that without development, a town can die. And we want Conway to thrive and grow bigger and better. But one of the things that is important that we look at responsible growth, and responsible growth is looking at your infrastructure, making sure there's enough police, fire department, and other people to really support your growth. So I'm happy to say that I'm very pleased with the way things are. I would like to again say happy Juneteenth. I was part of the ceremony on Saturday. One of the things that I was a little unhappy with on Saturday was the lack of presence by city officials, staff, and other people at the event. I think Conway is important and is at a very important point where we can really make a difference, not only in Conway, in other communities, to show them that by uniting and being sensitive to all our cultures, that we can really make a difference. So I don't know what happened. I don't want to speculate because I know emergencies and other things can come into play. But I like our city officials, things stop here. And I think you set the examples and people look to you. And we have seen the progress. I was part of the first class that graduated from Conway High, because before that, I went to a segregated school. So I have seen a lot of progress, and I don't want to think about the fact that I don't like the feelings I had in the past in terms of the way people were treated. Because I'm here, I've joined the gym, I'm doing a lot of things. I've seen a lot of good things happening. But one of the things I think we always have to keep in mind, and it's okay to remind people, just be sensitive to other cultures. And that's how we learn to get along, by being sensitive. So I would like to say that moving forward, let's think of events that will occur in other parts of the town, because we have to teach our children, not only, the bad things, we should be teaching them the good things about what's going on. But I want to thank everyone, and it was a beautiful second Juneteenth, and I'm looking forward to bigger and better things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Goldfinch,
Mayor, I move we close public input.
is there a second? Mr. Jordan? We have properly seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor, please indicate so with your right hand. And that motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is two special presentations. The first is Employee of the Month for the month of June 2022.
Yeah, this is one of my really good chances to share a good story with you that I wish I had 100 officers just like this. I coached her when she was just a little girl in T-ball here in the Conway rec programs. She's still a little girl to me, but I still wish I had that many of her around. And I'm going to make sure that I get this accurate. So I'm going to read this next part, which is my commendation for her. It says on Tuesday, April 26, 2022, Officer Sarah Prince responded to 604 Church Street after a call reported the vehicle had entered the parking lot and pushed out a subject onto the ground and fled the scene. The call reported the male was lying in the parking lot and not moving. When Officer Prince arrived on the scene, the male was lying in a prone position, unresponsive, and turning cyanotic. The subject did initially have inconsistent agonal breathing. Therefore, Officer Prince administered 1 dose of Narcan. Officer Prince noted the subject then quit breathing and had no pulse. So she began CPR until the subject's breathing and pulse was restored and he showed signs of life. He still had inconsistent breathing and was not regaining consciousness. So Officer Prince administered a 2nd dose of Narcan. The subject soon regained consciousness and did survive the overdose. Conway Police Corporal Tyrese Neesmith assisted along with Conway Fire Department personnel. Officer Prince did an outstanding job maintaining her composure and got the job done. Officer Prince is an asset to the department and to this community. And this is a life-saving award for her because of what she did for the city of Conway for this person. So because of that, she is being awarded our Employee of the Month. She gets a life-saving ribbon that she can now wear on her uniform that would designate to anyone involved who knows what this means, that she has saved someone's life. The law enforcement officers, Naloxone Network or Leon, she gets a challenge coin for the proper use of Narcan to revive this person. She gets a little plaque and she gets 8 hours of vacation, and she is a hero.
Congratulations and God bless you for thinking fast on your feet. Item D is a discussion of an amendment to Article 5, Section 528, residential swimming pools and spas of the Unified Development Ordinance regarding requirements. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am. This is a presentation prior to a public hearing, which will be held by you next month. Discussion to amend the residential swimming pools and spas ordinances in the Unified Development Ordinance. As the staff had been evaluating how pools were being reviewed and how they were being set out, they came up with some recommendations to make the general interpretation and application of the code more uniform. One of which was definitions. We did not have a definition of a residential swimming pool in the UDO. And you may think, well, that's not a big deal, but residential swimming pools are different than commercial swimming pools. They're regulated differently. DHEC can review commercial swimming pools, but does not come in to play on residential swimming pools. So we did need to make sure that the residential swimming pools were separate. Then we also added in a spa and a hot tub definition for this zone. In addition, the current swimming pool and spas mentioned that the pools shall be set back from the side yard. The pool water shall be so many feet from setbacks, which gave the opportunity for the pool to either be set back from the setbacks or set back from the property line. It was a little confusing, and so the staff had recommended that the setback be drawn instead from the same position that the county uses, which is 6 feet from any rear yard. Anything that is constructed above or around the pool will still have to meet the accessory structure setbacks. And then we also want to make it clear that we're not here to patrol kiddie pools. So before anybody asks, yes, we're going to exempt anything that holds 24 inches of water or less from these regulations. But because we can also have pool structures that are created that are side appurtenance to major pool structures, anything above 24 inches that's constructed in the rear yard will be regulated as such. Staff also recommended that the setbacks between the building and the pool fall to the building codes. And the planning commission made a few changes in the wording, but still stuck with the 6 foot setback.
Thank you, Ms. Harden. Are there questions or comments from the council? Mr. Goldfinch.
Ms. Harden, can you go back to the first slide that you showed us? Keep going, if you don't mind,
I don't mind a
Very-
bit.
right there.
Mhm.
Aren't there hot tubs that are incorporated into the construction of pools?
Yes,
So
sir.
that-
We
so
would,
That wouldn't have to be above ground. It can be.
it could be at grade, it could be above grade, but we would consider it if it's being part of the pool structure. If there is, for instance, a hot tub in the same structural surrounding as the pool, oftentimes they're offset by a little wall space
Right.
between the cold water and the hot water, or sometimes they are just a bubble jet area.
So
all
this
those would
language
be part
wouldn't
of the-
preclude that from being an issue. Yeah, thank you. All right.
Anyone else?
This, excuse me, this is going forward. This has nothing to do with someone that already has a pool, correct?
That's correct. If they wanted to amend their pool or adjust their pool after this is passed, then this would be in play. But for those that already have them, no, sir.
Thank you.
Apparently you've done a really good job. Thank you so much for making it so clear. We'll move forward then to item 7. First reading of ordinance ZA 2022-0705, granting a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Aubrey Cook, DBA A Cupful Cafe LLC for a mobile vending unit. Ms. Harden.
Thank you. This is the public hearing component of the franchise agreement discussion for Ms. Cook, who does business as a Full Cup Cafe or Cupful, excuse me, Cafe LLC for a mobile vending unit. We talked at the workshop with Ms. Cook about her hours, interested hours and interested days, and she's here to ask for those days to be set into the ordinance and move forward. Ms. Cook?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Aubrey Cook. I am the owner of A Cupful Cafe, and I wanted to ask for the days Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock to 2 p.m. on the green.
And if you will, Ms. Cook, just before we go into the public hearing, give us a couple of sentences on what it is that you're going to be offering.
Yes, I serve specialty coffees. They're non-alcoholic. And I do energy drinks. We do green teas, all flavored and different specialty ones.
Wonderful. Is there anyone present this afternoon who would like to speak either in favor of or against this cafe, this mobile cafe? Please. If it's part of a comment, sure. Absolutely.
I didn't know that the city had
Mobile. Yes, yes, please speak to that, Ms. Harden.
I can help. We have a mobile vending ordinance that allows for food vehicles to be located within the city under certain regulations on private property. On top of that, there is a franchise agreement opportunity. If the city council is willing to allow someone with a mobile food or vending unit to place the vending unit on public property, they go through this process so the public knows, because of being public property, it has to have an agreement with the city on behalf of the city with the business owner. So maybe that's too much info, but if not, if you got more questions, I got a card.
Thank you so much. Back to the public input. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in either direction? There being no one.
And Mayor, this is not a public hearing, so while public input is certainly
is
appreciated,
not.
it is not a public.
Okay, thank you so much. Somehow or other, my reading said something different.
I might
And
have
it
said.
is
the word
not
public
written there.
hearing. I
I'm
apologize.
just so accustomed to it.
I'm sorry. My
Mr.
bad.
Hyman,
Mayor, since this is a public hearing, I would move that we approve first reading of the granting of the non-exclusive franchise.
thank you, Mr. Goldfin.
I was gonna second that motion.
All right, we have a properly seconded motion to approve first reading of there being a a Cupful Cafe having a franchise agreement with City of Conway. Any discussion by the council, Mr. White?
Question, what times did you say again, please?
7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Thank you.
If I may add into one thing I did not mention that needs to be in the record, that Ms. Cook did provide the appropriate public notice for the first reading in the newspaper, the proper amount of days, the proper amount of time before the meeting.
Wonderful, thank you.
And
so
we have
much.
the affidavits on file for that.
Thank you, Ms. Harden. In that case, I will call the question. All in favor of approving first reading of this ordinance, please indicate so by raising your right hand. And the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
have second reading at our next meeting, Ms. Harden. Is that right? All right,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you so much. Item 8, consideration A, recommendation on selection of an artist to provide public art in the city of Conway. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, the city advertised
back in April, publicly to select a firm to provide public art in the city of Conway. It did not specify what kind of art or where to be specifically located. It was just a call for artists to submit their references and their work for review. So three artists submitted, or group of artists submitted proposals, but unfortunately, only two were received by the deadline. From that staff, there was a group of staff that reviewed the submittals. We looked at qualifications of the project team. We looked at a project approach and how they intended to go and make this work. And then we also looked at their accomplishments to date. Thank you, Allison. And with that, we conducted our individual evaluations and unanimously selected Girls Who Paint. If council approves this, we will work with them on where they can work within the city. What we'd like to see is them do something with Father's Place. So we would work with them on that specific thing and bring it back to you what that proposal would be.
Did you say Girls Who Paint?
I did. Girls Who Paint, and they're actually located out of Charleston, but are attending Coastal Carolina University. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Comments, questions, Mr. Goldfinch?
Mayor, I was move that we proceed with staff's recommendation. And
Is there a second? Ms. Helms? We have a properly seconded motion to accept staff's recommendation relative to public art in the city of Conway. All in favor, please indicate so by showing of your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Item B, discussion on extension of temporary placement of construction dumpsters and safety fencing and right of way at 3rd and Laurel Street. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, and this was discussed during public input, and Spence Little, who's with the construction company, the project managers, here also to answer any specific questions that I may not be able to answer. But what the request is, as you all know, they came before you 6 months ago and requested to use 2 of the parking spaces on Laurel for this construction. They have requested, at that time, city council approved it, but only for 6 months. And that 6 months is now. So they are requesting an extension through the end of July. From what I understand, that is because the windows will be done in the next few days, but they still have to do power washing and painting. And so that is the request. The last I heard from Mr. Little, they hope to have all this work done by July 15th. They were requesting July 30th, just in case of weather delays. But I'm happy to answer any questions or defer to Mr. Little for those.
So the council actually did approve 6 months initially?
Yes.
I thought it was less time than that.
It was 6. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank
But
you.
we're here now. That was the 6 month mark is beginning of July.
What date in July, can you say?
I have it in my issue paper. January 3rd was when it was approved. So 6 months would be July 3rd.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you so much. Mr. Goldfinch?
question for you, maybe for several of you. Ms. Cannon, is this what you were speaking to earlier? Okay, and this is the part where we can have dialogue, unlike public input. So, when we did that, of course, sometimes to make things better, you have to be inconvenienced on the front end. I think we all appreciate and understand that. But, certainly unaware until this evening that there was an issue. And to be fair, I don't know to what extent there truly is or is not an issue. I don't know. This is all news to me, but I'd like to understand that situation a little bit better
Sure.
as to what's going on to inconvenience her.
Right. Would you like to pass it to
Well,
her?
I guess I'd like, I've heard from her and
Yeah.
let's hear from y'all and then maybe
Sure.
we'll go back.
Yeah, and we have spoken to Ms. Cannon, so we are completely aware of this, and we have, and our building staff has gone out there on occasion and met with the construction company. And I completely understand her concerns, because if you look there, it is she is blocked on both sides because so much construction is going on this street. But from what I understand, it's not necessarily the tunnel itself, as some of the parking has become an issue.
Days shut off 100% for hours that nobody could get to. No parking spots for for several days. From my understanding, the owner of the building wanted to reclaim the stone and groove board that was in the building for days. You could not even cross under the tunnel because of them for days, taking them out. So they were pointed out and basically had the whole sidewalk blocked for days. This is just been kind of one example of from day one, where we should be having significant growth. And we're basically cut off and now with the construction on the other, which doesn't have anything to do with them. But when you have all the parking spots, handicap spots been blocked this morning, 3 hours, there was a sign that's supposedly hanging on the side of the tunnel. It had fallen off. The superintendent there was there for 3 hours. It was still, and I actually brought pictures, and all of those pictures were taken today. Those only include the days of being blocked.
And we have made the contractors and the owners aware of this, and I believe they've reached out as well. So I just want to let you know, staff has been trying to rectify the situation.
So I think we'd like to hear what you anticipate just in terms of more lead time that to get the project finished and what might happen in the meantime to free up some access to other businesses.
Spence Little, project manager with Montgomery Construction. And meeting with Robert Lewis, the building owner last week, we looked at this knowing that, we had the meeting today. Our plan is to go ahead and remove the scaffolding and remove the tunnel now and not have an extension. We're going to work off a moving, oscillating lift down the building as we're power washing and painting. And that lift, we would plan to park in that third spot where the dumpster and the porta john is while the work's being done, so the sidewalk's clear. Starting at sunrise and trying to get finished up, earlier in the day. That way the scaffolding is gone, the sidewalk's open most of the time. For OSHA reasons and safety reasons, we'll need to move barriers, but they'll be movable where they get put up at night or whatever. But a section as we're doing the painting and power washing, we'll move down the sidewalk as we're doing that. And we're looking at weather permitting, wind also affects that power washing and paint. Because obviously we don't paint any cars or anything. And that's one of the reasons we do request to keep the parking spots. Number one, for unloading material, that's the only access to the building. It's the only door in the building is those spots right there. But we'll take the tunnel down to get that out of the way, where there's a full sidewalk. And then just safety off as we're moving down. But we'll need the dumpster and the porta john until, we get further along. There's no really a whole lot of way around it. And to be able to keep those 3 spots, number one, keep someone from parking there in the middle of the night. And then, we can't be painting above somebody's parked car below us, wind and everything else. So that's kind of where we ended up. But we will go ahead and as soon as we can get it scheduled, go ahead and get scaffolding down. We also, Montgomery is we're adding an additional second guy, our second lead man that is going to be responsible. He's starting July 1st on the project. He'll be there for the duration. And one of his main responsibilities is safety outside, clean up, because whether it's us, whoever, who knows, but it can get, this construction site, it can get dirty. There's no excuse, but that is going to be his sole responsibility. We've already assigned someone and they're starting July 1st on the project to be able to address that. And also to keep people from parking. There's another construction job going on the other side of the boutique. I understand the concerns too with that. But as far as what we're going to do is make sure that, matter of fact, I did it just a minute ago. I saw a construction truck pull up in front of the boutique because she's spoken with our field guys several times because they see a free spot, they park there. By the time we catch it, it could be an hour or whatever. But that guy's responsibility is to make sure that's not our people parking that far down, that our guys park behind over here on the other side in the public parking, unless they're unloading or loading. And that's why we ask for 3 spaces. The dumpster porta john kind of squeezed in one, and then where our lift will be parked and a place for people to back up and be able to unload and load. And his responsibility would be to do what we have to do safety wise so there aren't pedestrians walking and we're, doing something dangerous.
Thank
So
you.
that's our plan.
I have a question. This is probably a staff question. Does it make any sense? I mean, I don't know that this is possible, but could not the dumpster and the porta john be somewhere in the alley?
The alley doesn't, the alley's further down the street. It's not right on this building. You're talking about the alley off of Warren?
Yes.
It's a couple, they'll be done, and I'm afraid they're cut off at,
There's no rear access to this building.
right. It's covered on both sides of the building. That's been the problem for times that didn't have that access to a lot of other.
And with mustard seed below, there's no access in the front. So that little door on the side zone, that's the only one getting in the building because we're snookered on all sides.
So how is that safe for? Isn't there a requirement that there be dual access from the building?
That was a code issue during the review. It's a single egress, fire egress. There's an area of rescue, fire alarm, fire sprinkler system. There were a lot of upgrades that had to be done with the fire system
Because of the absence of that
because of the
extra.
travel distance and single access on egress. Yes, ma'am.
Staff, do you think we've utilized our best everything to promote the reconstruction, but not to deter business at the same time? Have we exhausted all of our resources?
I do like what the solutions he's coming forward with. I do. From what I understand from this panel, you correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have so much problem with the parking spaces that were blocked off. It's more the other space taking up the entire street. That's the problem.
And we've tried to educate our guys, but their field guys might pull up and they pull up and park right in front of our door. We'll catch it, make a move. And it's a logistics thing. So that's why we've added a different person to have more eyes to be able to identify if it's someone of our people to get them out of the way. I mean, that's.
She was going to say something.
Yes, ma'am, please.
But I've never been talked to. I'm not only no one has reached out to me. They have maybe told JC something, but no one has reached out and talked to me personally. When you look at those spots and some of the pictures may not make sense, but if you go even from this point, what you can see, when you get to that corner, the handicap spot a lot of times is not used. If I had a handicap situation, I would not feel comfortable parking in that spot. So you have that, then you have the trash and the garbage because it is treated as a construction site, not as a downtown Conway area. And now it's talking about blocking spaces off. So great that we're taking the scaffolding down, but if he's talking about blocking that for days on end, will you still be blocked? You're still blocking us off. I understand like the kind of road, I will show up the kind of road. I guess my patience is worn out. So any more parking spots that are unnecessarily, there's also, it's not a residential area. There's times to work that aren't during business hours. But it's like the alley is, there's not a, there's like a relation.
No, these aren't spots. These are the same ones that they've been using. Is there a way to I mean, I don't know if there's a way that city can monitor, but I mean, that's a little tough. I mean, especially with 2 construction sites going on Laurel.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. The bigger issue that I see is the second construction site is going to be ramping up as this one ramps down. And to be able to make sure that the same issues are not experienced going forward, it's going to be a new learning curve.
At least that one's got a rear access.
Right.
And also the end where Crooked Oak is, the traffic flow, I don't know where it was downtown. When people come into downtown, they go to the visitor center, they come down Main Street and it's just the traffic flow. So when they come and go down 3rd Avenue and that's what they see, they don't come to us. So taking the scaffolding down helps, obviously, I'm really bringing them down. But you have that traffic flow that is different from that end. People aren't coming from that. People aren't looking. The hub is third and Laurel with that intersection. So that's where you have the group of people. And so, yes, I need to not have to deal with this happening to the world now. But the visually, I'm seeing on the last, for a third world is the last of the.
Well, I think we're faced with the age-old question. We've got some construction that is nearing completion, and it makes no sense to not allow it to be completed. On the other hand, we have an existing business that is halted by that construction, and we depend on your success. What a position. Mr. Goldfinch.
By virtue of where the project is and the constraints of really not having any margin of land to work with, it's like a buddy of mine that builds high rises on the ocean. It's a more expensive project because you don't have room to work. It's just, there's more involved in the logistics. And it sounds like to me that y'all need to work together and find some common ground. I mean, we got to finish the project. I mean, that we're 85% of the way into it. On the other hand, those parking spots aren't, I mean, you've got access to your buildings. It's not like they're blocking you from your getting inside of your property, correct? And customers, but they're just consuming the parking spots. And so I guess what I was saying is the flip side of that is nobody has dedicated parking spots downtown, right? Is that, I mean, am I missing something? So nobody is promised parking spots in front of their business or even down the street. And that hasn't changed. That's always been in place. But I think the two of y'all need to get together and figure something out because, you want to be good neighbors and you want to do the right thing.
Right, absolutely.
And we want to see this project wrap up and be a good thing for our community too. So let's find some balance, guys.
Okay. And we
What
want to
is
say
your best guess about your completion time?
for the two elevations.
Well,
that are-
and I'm not asking about best case scenario, just because
Just
maybe
on-
I should ask about the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario would be 4 weeks. Well, that's all the pain. 3 weeks is what we're looking at for those two elevations on Third and then Laurel's. So if we get good weather, then, that could get better. We'll expedite it and work it in sections working on down. So,
What,
and our plan is we're actually going to start work at sunrise. We can't, without lighting up the whole city of Conway with the lights that the owner, I'm sure, doesn't want to pay for. You can't really paint at night. But at sunrise early, I know everybody around us opens at 10 with trying to get as much done as we can within that time period. If we tried to condense our schedule to only having 5 hours a day, it's going to take 2 months. Our goal is to get out of everybody's way and be, like you said, good neighbors. So that was the plan that we came up with. Number one, adding the extra person that we'll get in contact, but when he comes on board to make sure he's going to be our lead guy. If you see anybody parking or if there's an issue, that he is going to be more responsible for that. And you can call me. And then just making sure that we keep it safe while we get finished. And that's really all we ask. I mean, if we get good weather and everyone does what they're supposed to do, we could be done by the middle of July. Somewhere between the middle of July and the end of July is realistic.
is it practical at all? I love your idea of starting earlier. That's one good solution. As soon as the windows are completed, will you have AC in the upper floors of that building? Air conditioning?
The air will be coming on right around the middle of July.
Okay. You know where I'm going with this. Is painting the only thing that's going on the inside?
outside, just the exterior.
Okay,
Now, the inside was completely gutted, except for everything historic. This is historic renovation.
well, I'll just come out with my question. Is there any way that you could have you start your day earlier, but could you also extend your day later? It's daylight until almost 9 PM.
For means of the work on the exterior,
For whatever might get you done quicker. It's just a question.
it would be difficult to change the sequencing and everything at this point, honestly. And there is a certain loss of productivity when you do that. We obviously, we haven't worked on weekends on purpose because we know that's busy time. So that's not an option, really. The loud structural noise that you would normally hear on a construction site is pretty much complete. We're getting into the phase now of hanging sheetrock and putting down flooring and the stuff that doesn't make that much noise. The heavy demolition outside, as far as the windows and all that stuff, that was all done. We're getting into the work that's not quite as noisy. And you know, again, once we get the exterior done, our lift will be taken out, it's gone, and all we just need is room for a spot for unloading and loading near those doors, and our spots for the porta-john and the dumpster. And that's all we ask.
So 2 parking spaces.
Sorry.
So 2 parking spaces instead of 3.
Well, it's 3. Yeah, we'd like to keep 3. The dumpster, porta-john, and then the unloading spot would be 3. There's 3 spots right there. Not including handicap. It's kind of.
Because one of the concerns I have, I'll get right back to you, Mr. Emery, is that that it's a handicap spot that's being taken up. I mean, that gives me heartburn. Is that not the case?
It's not one of theirs. It's, I think you're saying.
But she said it has
homes and
been-
other things, But it's not one of the designated spaces that was blocked off for them. That makes sense.
It's not designated as.
But it's being used for cones and other things, yes. But it's not one of the.
So it's taking another spot.
Correct.
Yes. Near. And I'm hearing we might be able to change that pretty easily.
Yeah, I just need that spot where the lift is going to be for the weeks we're doing that work outside is for our supervisor to park and loading and unloading. Because that's going to be constant. Until we're done, until we're moving furniture in.
Mr. Emery.
One other thing is if you're asking him to work early or late, you also need to waive the noise ordinance prohibition on construction before 7 or after 7. That was put in place by council.
Can we do that for just this job?
Yes, you can.
But you're saying that that's not a practical change for you to make.
As far as trying to work like 7 at night till 4 in the morning, is that what you mean by working late?
No, somehow starting earlier and adjust the middle of the day, perhaps. I don't know. There are a
Yeah,
number of ways that could be worked out. I'm just
I'm sure-
wondering.
I'm sure there's a way we could do that. It would be constructability and a schedule and cost impact. You know, to work for 3 hours and not do anything for 8 hours and then come back and work. It's not really productive for us to do that because not everyone that works there is from here. You know, we're trying to get out of there by September with everything. So our goal is pushing as hard as we can to get through.
Mr. Hammond.
I'm just trying to be practical on both sides here. It seems like you guys need to stay out of other parks, stay in the 3, get it done as quickly as possible, and that's that. I mean, I don't know of any other fix.
I mean,
You can't, it's not like we can hold the project up, but it's just gonna make it worse. I mean, if we say work at this hour and this hour and this hour, we're gonna be sitting here in August. And my thing is, it's just, I think the only option is you do the best you can, keeping your people out of the parks. If it's problematic, call them. You give her your card. I mean, I think, William, that was what Mr. Goldfinch was kind of bringing up about saying y'all two need to get together. But I don't think we can shut down a construction site.
Yeah, that's my, oh, I'm sorry, Larry, Mr. White had his hand up.
Why does the supervisor have to be parked there all day? Why can't he move his truck somewhere else?
He parks in front of the loading and unloading zone that we use for materials. When there's a delivery coming, he moves. So the delivery truck or the concrete truck or whoever it is comes in, and that's where we unload.
But my point is, could he not just move period and cone that area and move the cones if necessary?
Well, the problem with that would be is somebody comes and parks there and we got a concrete truck sitting in the street spinning. It's pretty, you know, we're always getting deliveries, you know, and that's also where we moved our dumpster and everything down out of the handicap spot because that's where it was impeding on that. And it was supposed to be when they drop it off, it's supposed to be, and then starts at the next spot.
Sure. Well, lest we do this all day, it sounds, I'm resigned to agree that the best thing we can do is to free up everything but those 3 spots, exactly what Mr. Hammond said. Have you work closely with the business owner, give her some assurances that her complaints will be responded to and you get the work done as soon as you can. I don't know that there's any better way. We're getting ready to hear about that now. So I think part of the reason you're before us is to get an extension. Is that correct?
Yeah, then we're not asking for that now. So.
Right. Okay. So what is that date that you are asking for exactly?
Well, the date
July.
on well, for the dumpsters and safety, it will be right around September 20th.
No.
No, you're talking, I thought that says dumpsters. I thought
July
we're
30th.
talking about the tunnel. We're talking about 2 different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tunnel is coming down.
Okay, what was approved?
Yes,
What was approved on January 3rd, which I talked to Robert about,
right.
was the tunnel and the use of those parking spaces being blocked off.
Okay.
And that was approved for 6 months, and this is an extension to do those, to allow those to extend to July 30th.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize, see, and I was talking about the tunnel more.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
That's what.
So I guess it would be, yeah, so just for those 3 spaces.
And that is I want to clarify that it was originally approved for 2 spaces. So if council wants to change it to 3, that is a change from before. I just want to bring that up. It was originally 2 in the original.
So our original 2 somehow morphed into 3 without it coming before the council.
Correct.
Well, what happened was the dumpsters got dropped off and it was blocking half the handicap spot. So in all reality, it really is just 2 spots. It stops at the end of our building. You got the handicap up at the corner and a couple spots running down the side. I think it's 2, I don't know, 3, 2 or 3.
That was the original request.
Well, I would move that the council approve this request for an extension, but as it was originally allowed, 2 parking spaces with an extension to July 30th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion from the council? There being none, all in favor with a show of hands, please. And that extension with those 2 parking spaces does extend until July 30th.
Okay.
Thank you all. Item C, discussion on Marina slip rental agreement. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, as you may remember, of the many issues staff brought before you at the budget retreat, one of those was a discussion on allowing liveaboards at the Conway Marina. And basically, that's a fancy way of saying people living on a boat. I didn't know what it meant before, so apparently it's a very well-known word.
But at budget retreat, staff was directed by city council to look into this being allowed at the Conway Marina. At that time, we also discovered it was time to update the slip rental agreement that is used when folks do rent the slips down at the marina. So with that, we have been working with local attorney David Sly to update that agreement and to add the use of liveaboards. So before you is a draft of that amended agreement. I'm happy to answer specific questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Discuss anything you may like concerning this. And I have David here as well.
Wonderful. Mr. Hammond.
Mayor, I read over, thought it looked good. The only question I had, I think Adam answered earlier, I'd asked about temporary spots.
Yep.
And then I saw Matt back there, but it's my understanding that someone can travel in from out of town on their boat and rent. I guess you'd call it rent one of our spots, but that's on the actual river walk, not inside.
Yeah, on the transient docks, they can do that. And Matt is here. I asked him to come as well in case there were specific questions like that. But from what I understand, it's $1 per foot per night to do that. And we did work with Mr. Barnador on these updates.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is there any reason to preclude overnight docking at the onboard overnight docking at the actual marina? If I know we're not set up that way yet, but who's to say that with future project expansions that we wouldn't be? Is that just something that we would revisit at that point? Or I guess I just don't see the downside in temporary docking inside the marina if somebody wanted to come through and spend the night. And not a huge deal, but
In my opinion, no, there's no downside to somebody coming in, for a night or two, because we get it quite frequently. They come in and stay at the Cypress, or they stay on their boat there and visit our area, but they don't, they're not there permanently. So there's no downside.
otherwise I like the idea of a houseboat.
As do I.
Yeah.
I think, the river is a wonderful resource. And
Sure.
Anybody who's living on a boat is another head in a bed downtown. Anybody else, Mr. White?
Question, what about safety issues? Suppose I had a boat and I shot somebody and decided to get on my boat and leave. How would we, I'm just going way out. I just want to know if there's
I hope you
any
don't have
type of
one down there.
security down there at the river for someone just coming in and we not know who they might be.
No. We have a process. We have, when somebody does come to stay tonight, I have a form that I have them, that we fill out with their name and phone number, stuff like that we can get in touch with them. So we know who's there. And the same for our permanent slips, I know who they are. So if we had any issue with guests, then we would be able to pinpoint, the suspect.
Thanks, sir.
David did add language that, the city's not responsible if things are stolen off the road, and it does, we added some insurance requirements as well. So hopefully this is better than where we were.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Where's the will of the council? Is this just a discussion for now? Okay.
Yes, we wanted to bring it before you to see if you had any issues with it before we brought it back for first reading.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hyman, I'm sorry.
I'll just say, while we're not voting about it, as far as advising y'all, I think that this is ready to go to first reading.
Thank you.
I agree.
My
What?
question is, does the attorney have anything he would like to add to all of this?
I think that's pretty well summed up. It speaks for itself. It's the liveaboard section was really the only thing that was unique to the update. Everything else was mostly cleanup. It hadn't been looked at in a while. And so that was the only section with a real substantive change. And so that's really it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Everything looks promising from this side.
And Adam just corrected me. I don't know what I was thinking. This is not actually an ordinance. It's an agreement. So if you're good with it, we can move forward without
So-
ratings. Yes.
So would you require a vote or just a nod?
A vote would be fantastic.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Mr. Hyman,
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the liveaboard vote agreement as put forth in our packet.
I second Mr. Hyman's motion. And in so doing, we have a properly seconded motion. All in favor, please indicate so with the showing of your right hand. This motion carries unanimously. Best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item D. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Consideration of an agreement to lease city-owned property, 207 Jessamine Street, Ms. Hyman.
Yes, we had a news article come out recently about this, so we've had a lot of interest. But this is a property owner that's been eyeing it for quite some time. Tom Anderson, who owns 2 properties on Jessamine Street, is requesting to lease the city-owned FEMA parcel across the street from his 2 properties. As you know, city acquired many of these lots in the floodplain through the FEMA buyout process. And with that, some of these come before council to be leased by adjacent property owners. And those property owners would be required to sign an agreement with the city, have insurance on the property, and with that, they take over the maintenance of that property. But I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move that we approve the
Mr. Hyman.
I would second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve this request for use of a FEMA property, city-owned FEMA, former FEMA property. Is there any other discussion, Mr. White?
Yes, thank you. These properties are they available at first come, first served?
They are first come, first served. That's correct.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, they won't be able to build any structures on these properties. They have to remain open space so that water can flow through.
Can they be paved for parking?
No, they could not.
Mr. Goldfinch.
I thought that we put in when we started doing this, that we gave preference to like an adjoining property, someone who has a beneficial interest in the property itself.
We do, and but
the lady that she couldn't,
right. But if in this case, there's several adjacent property owners, so it would just be first come, first served. But yeah, if someone across town asked for it, each request would come before council, but I would imagine preference would be towards an adjacent property owner. Yes.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor, please indicate so with raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item E, establishment of a recruitment incentive program for employees. Mr. Rogers.
Good afternoon. Before you for consideration is establishment of a recruitment bonus basically for employees. What staff is proposing is if a non-department head employee makes a recommendation to someone who applies for a job here, successfully gets that job and completes their probation, the employee who referred them would get a $500 bonus. If the job into which that person came required a certification such as a building inspector, police officer, firefighter, and that person held that ahead of time, saving us the process of having to go through that and the expense of that, it would double their bonus to $1,000. It would be available for positions open in any department that has 2 job openings at the time. And like I said, would be available to non-department head employees. And if the person who made the referral leaves employment with the city of Conway before the person they referred finishes their requirements, they would not receive the bonus. That person has to remain employee.
I'm glad you caught that one. I would have wanted to insist upon it. Any questions or comments? I move that we approve the establishment of this incentive program for employees. Is there a second? Mr. Jordan, thank you, sir. We have properly seconded the motion to do so. All in favor, please indicate so with showing of your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, sir. And item F, consideration of awards of 2022-23 economic development grants. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. In April, the city began soliciting applications for our economic development grant program. It's the third year of the program, and applications were due May 6th. Total available funding that council budgeted was $150,000. We received 5 applications from 4 local organizations, and I'll give just a brief sentence or two on each one and staff's recommendation for each. And first is the Conway Chamber of Commerce. They have received a grant every year in this program. They are requesting funding for staffing in a variety of programs. As I said, the city has consistently funded them. The amount they've requested is $150,000. Staff's recommendation is $80,000. Conway Downtown Alive has submitted 2 applications for 2 separate programs. First is Field of Teal, town gown initiative with Coastal Carolina that would have events downtown related to Coastal Carolina. They have requested $12,700 and staff is recommending $12,700. Conway Downtown Alive is also requesting funding for the Waccamaw Sportsman's Expo in 2023. The first event was held this year. I know most of you went to that and are aware of it. They are requesting $37,300 and staff is recommending $37,300. The Go Get Your Youth Foundation has applied for funding for various activities that benefit veterans and the public at large. The application, as it was written, brought up a few questions of eligibility. So staff is not recommending funding at this time. However, we have contacted their executive director and have scheduled a meeting because we do think they have the ability to put in a competitive application in the future. And so we're going to meet with them and hopefully have something in the future grant processes with them. Horry County First Steps is requesting partial funding for their Week of the Young Child events in Conway. They did that this year and it was fairly successful. And that's an event to be held next April. They're requesting $10,000 and staff is recommending $10,000. And that's all of them. So I'll turn it over for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. White.
I mean, I need to step aside from the voting on this because there's a possibility, appearance of my being partial.
Appearance of, I think there's a family member that might have benefited from one of these requests. All right. I think clerk is preparing something for you to sign. Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you, Mayor. John, the staff recommendation in regards to Conway Chamber of Commerce, we historically have been funding that position a little bit more for, and we've outsourced the economic development piece that we recognize they do. And they've used these funds to fund that position and that operation. Is there another funding mechanism in place that staff's going to recommend to supplement the dip in the amount that staff's recommending here?
Not from staff's perspective, but council did up their the amount they get from the hospitality at the budget retreat.
Right. So can you give me roughly those numbers?
That I believe their hospitality numbers went up by $22,000 in the next budget.
Okay. So essentially at the end of the day, between this recommendation and the increase in hospitality funds, we're making them whole on what we've done historically.
Basically, yes.
Basically. All right. Mayor, I would move that we approve staff's recommendations as listed.
I'll second your motion. And in so doing, we have a properly seconded motion to approve staff's recommendations relative to the granting of these funds. Any further discussion by the council? I will. So what did I just ask? I'm gonna call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate so with the raising of your right hand. Thank you so much. And because Mr. White has recused himself, the remaining council members all have voted favorably. I don't guess that's unanimous anymore. I do have a question
Yes.
relative to one of the applicants. Are there any funds left in this in these grants?
As I said, council budgeted $150,000 and with your motion just now, basically appropriated $140,000.
Okay, so that leaves $10,000. What is staff's recommendation relative to the $10,000? Would it be held until the next granting opportunity, or?
The last time we had money left, it just went back to the general fund.
Would that be your recommendation this time?
That it depends on where you're going with it. Well, I mean, it's at council's discretion to spend through the rest of the budget year.
So even if it went into the general fund, it would be available should council choose to pull it out for a similar function.
Well, yeah, I mean, with a future budget amendment or something like that, but it could go to this purpose, basically at council's discretion through 6/30/23.
Okay.
Till the end of the budget.
Okay, I think that satisfies my question. Anybody else? Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. We'll now hear the city administrator's report. Mr. Emery.
Good afternoon. The bids for Smith Jones Pool were supposed to be on the agenda for approval tonight, but we received no bids. Again, no contractor bid on the rebuilding of Smith Jones Pool, so we'll have to rebid the project. We're going to delay the bid until after the summer season to hopefully attract bidders for this time. We had talked with several, I think 4 different pool companies reached out to us prior to the bid. None of them submitted. Because of federal funding we're using, and our procurement policy, we can't do any other way but do solicitation of bids. So until we go out to bid again, I will not update council on the Smith Jones Pool, but know that it has not left our mindset. We need to get that going. A reminder that SCDOT has scheduled a public meeting at the Sports and Fitness Center on June 21st to discuss the intersection project at 378 and 16th Avenue. The meeting is a drop-in style meeting from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. Conway 10 and under softball all-stars who won the state championship in softball last year at this time are on their way back to the state championship again this weekend. And we wish our girls the best as they defend their crown. I think last year we were able to watch some of those games on YouTube. I'm hoping that'll be a chance again. Okay, and we'll put more information out on that as those come up. The next council meeting is Tuesday, July 5th, and that is a different day than normal because of the 4th of July holiday, which is why I'm bringing it up. We are attempting to hold a workshop prior to that meeting at 3 p.m. We have a presentation from someone who's going to Zoom in, I believe, from overseas, and because of the time change issue, it would put them very, very late if they did the workshop after and normal. So I know I've reached out to you for that. So if we'll put out a special meeting notice for the media if we do that. I want to bring to your attention an issue we're facing in our solid waste collection program. We have a number of residents utilizing 2 green trash carts for their waste removal. The fees that our residents pay monthly are for the pickup of only 1 cart, and there's an extra fee if you use 2 carts. We have a lot of folks that are using 2 without paying that extra fee, and we're having to crack down on that a little bit. Our solid waste tipping fees are going up every month, and we're finding a lot of that is coming from households that are multiplying their waste. So if you get any complaints, that is why we're having a little bit of a crackdown on that. Right now, neighbors are paying for other neighbors to pick up garbage, so we have to be able to correct that. This Saturday is going to be a very busy day in Conway. It is both Riverfest and the WES cheer and football camp. So expect lots of traffic around both the sports and fitness complex downtown, the riverfront, and on the river itself. And fireworks begin at dark, 9:30, which is dark too. And there are some fun new happenings at the Recreation Department. The first ever dive-in movie event is at the pool on July 6th, and the movie is Finding Nemo. There are shag dancing lessons on July 21st. And the Recreation Department wanted to report that last weekend they hosted a 23-team travel baseball tournament from teams throughout South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. The new road behind Chick-fil-A is making great progress. The previous asphalt has been milled. The construction of upgraded stormwater infrastructure has commenced. And when completed, this road will connect Mill Pond to 16th Avenue and provide a safe and easy access to the Recreation Department to all the amenities on Church Street and allow access to signalized lights at both ends. So it's been definitely a goal of mine in the city for years to be able to make this a safer way to access our roads, and it's well under construction. And then that's the end of my report, except for a department head report from someone council never gets to hear from, Allison Harden.
We never need to hear from? Never, oh.
Yes, the shy wilting flower returns to the microphone. Thank you. My last report to you was in December 2021. And at that time, I didn't think our department could get busier. I'm here to admit my estimation was off base, but don't tell my husband I said I was wrong. We currently stand at or above our totals against last year activities for reviews, including plans and subdivisions, fences and pools, and especially single family houses. We have one staff member who reviews those single family houses, and she started the week with 65 permits on her list, and it grows daily, as does Conway. We have upped our customer service game, providing 40% more courtesy visits before issuing zoning violations and more than doubled the residential courtesy visits. The result in this is that we have written half as many residential violation letters as last year and issued no residential violations to date. Customer service skills are important and they do work. Last year's total of 903 illegal signs removed has been met and topped, as you may have heard. And the count continues as we're winding down on the primary election season. I'd like to remind everyone that tomorrow is the last day to remove your election signs if the candidate is not in a runoff. The deadline for removing all signs for the runoff is Tuesday, July 5th, the day of your next meeting. And I'd say that for the public information. But our staff isn't just about numbers. However, and since the last time we spoke, we've been busy working to increase our knowledge about bicycle and pedestrian needs by attending the Horry County Trail Summit in May. We've evaluated the UDO for areas where we can clean up the language, and we're bringing those to you monthly. We participated in beautification projects like the Conway welcome sign at the high school and shared inspection duties with the building department as we both try to fill the positions we have available in our departments. Speaking of which, planning concierge position, it's open. I've got some good resumes and I'm looking forward to scheduling interviews very soon. Finally, with it being the end of the budget year, I want to thank you again for your commitment to programs like Tree City USA, which has allowed us this year to provide more than 1,000 trees for our citizens to plant in their yards and on their property, and give staff the ability to purchase tools that are used to continually help make Conway more and more beautiful with each passing season. We are so fortunate to work in a community that is committed to increasing the quality of life for every resident and that gives us the tools, both the tangible and intangible, to make that happen. Thank you also for our intern, who was very happy to participate today in seeing what it was like to build a road.
Thank you so much. We'll now go to council input, and we'll begin with Ms. Helms.
I have spoken to the Jenkins family and they suggested that we name that new road maybe Jenkins Field Road. I think they got up with Mary Catherine and then you were going to check with 911, but. Oh. Okay, good. I think that the sister Churchill gave us a list and the whole family vetoed that, so. All right, and Ms. Calhoun, I just hope we stay on that and kind of help her out with that business. I don't think he was real happy with council. However, I don't think he's doing his due diligence either. So I do want to maybe stay on top of that a little bit. I do appreciate council going with the boats and the slips down there, and the guy that was been asking me was here tonight, so he was real happy to hear that. And I enjoyed your banquet the other night, even though I had bad news from my dad. We're praying he's going to do okay. And but there were a lot of big people there, and it was a real nice time. And that's all I got for today.
Mr. Hyman.
Just briefly, Mayor, yes, the mayor's banquet the other night was great and well attended, well done by staff and the mayor. The planning concierge position, I'm super excited about that. I a lot of times hear from builders, contractors, and unfortunately right now, I know we're having a hard time filling positions and those kind of things, but at least having somebody in that planning department to be able to be reached by phone and kind of explain that. But I do hope everybody will be patient with that and understand the city's doing everything we can. But other than that, looking forward to this weekend. I think Riverfest is going to be great. That's always a fun time. My 7-year-old son, he loves fireworks, so I think that'll be great. So thank you, Chamber, for putting that on. Other than that, it's all good.
Thank you so much, Mr. White.
Thank you, ma'am. The bids for Smith Jones Pool are they in state? I mean, I'm not in county or
They're nationwide,
nationwide?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right,
but more, it's statewide mostly, but you could bid from anywhere.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure it just wasn't Ori. With the Juneteenth program that was held Saturday, I did attend and I did get jumped all over because we did not have receptacles, trash receptacles there. They did come, thank you. And also the grass was not cut. So I really got stumped on those issues. So the next time or whomever uses that facility, please make sure those things are done if possible. And the last thing on Juneteenth, this is a federal holiday now, am I correct? And if it falls on the Monday of a city council meeting again, could we move it to the Tuesday following?
Sure. It'll be part of the council set
Thank you.
schedule in January.
Great, thanks, sir. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you, Mayor. Dittos on the comments about the banquet last Thursday. It was amazing, and staff, you all did an amazing job to put that together, and it showed. I had no idea there were such incredible people who have accomplished such amazing things that were from Conway. So it was eye-opening. It was just a great event. The roast went a little too long. I don't know. I don't know what in the world that guy was thinking.
Yes.
But I promise to be on script. I promise to be on script next time. I teach Sunday school once a month and I always am on script. And I don't know. It was different. It was different this time. Those two people that we roasted and honored have had such a huge part in my life and making me who I am for better or worse. But it was such an honor to do that. So thank you. Larry, you stole my thunder about Juneteenth. You brought it up earlier several months ago, and I don't think we ever really went anywhere with it, but you're right. It is a federal holiday. Markets are closed, banks are closed. Let's have that discussion. And then finally, you got my Jell-O ready? No, for Riverfest. Okay. And looking forward to sponsoring that again. If you've got kids or grandkids, bring them down. What time do we want to do that? At noon. That's what I thought. They can get in. My kids always get in first before it gets nasty, and it does get nasty. So bring your kids and your grandkids down and we'll jump into Jell-O and have a good time. And thank you, Mayor. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo what everyone else said about the banquet Thursday night. Our one letdown was our bouncer actually did not get Mr. Goldfinch off the stage quick enough. But other than that, we had great turnout. I was honored at that a few years ago, and that's what kind of lit the fire for where I am today with this. I always look forward to that. And speaking of actually, I think we have another tournament this weekend. Coming up. 36. Great. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. Ms. Butler.
Just a couple of things today. The planning concierge position, excited that that has become available. I just want to reiterate that we have had thousands of wonderful minds graduate from Coastal. So if at all possible, I hope that they are being considered. I'm hoping that they've applied, if we can kind of push that. Because we don't want to lose these young people who are graduating from Coastal. Let's get them involved. Let's put them in and let them know that Conway is a great place to work and to live. Then I just want to briefly say about Juneteenth. I also attended Juneteenth downtown. I was able to talk to some of the vendors, some of the participants that were there. What I would really love is to see some more collaboration, whether it's with the city, whether it's with the Get Your Youth Foundation, whether it's with the Smith Jones Board, whether it's with the chamber. Riverfest, which is next week, it's a wonderful event. It's wonderful. It brings everyone of Conway together. I think Juneteenth could be another event that could bring literally everyone of Conway together. So what I would love is if we could all work together to make sure that everyone of Conway understands the same way we love Riverfest. Why can't we love Juneteenth? So anytime we have an event in downtown Conway, let's all do it. Let's all participate. I'm hoping that everyone in Conway feels welcome to attend. And so that's just my thing. I don't know how that collaboration could work. I don't know how those discussions could start. But I think it would be a great effort if we do start those conversations to see what we can do. How can we all come together to make Juneteenth also an awesome event in Conway? So thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody who took care of some important role in that awards banquet. I don't believe that we could ever acknowledge and honor people for their good deeds and for the magnitude of their richness to the city. And that's the reason we have the banquet. But so many people were involved in making it successful. And rather than name names, I'll just say that you know who you are. Everybody on the council, so many people among our staff, and I thank you so much. There are great things going on. I had a conflict and wasn't able to attend Juneteenth. A conflict had stood for some months, but I'll try my best to not miss another one. And not to slight any other activity that's coming up in Conway. I need to personally put a plug in for the WES Foundation's football camp and cheer camp this Saturday at our recreation center, our sports and fitness center. Pardon me. You get in big trouble if you say it wrong around here. Big man sitting over there on the side. But Everett Sands and his foundation put in an awful lot of work and to get this together. I was very impressed. The first couple of years were just very well attended. This past year, there were more volunteers than there were kids. And I think to the dismay of all of us. But among those volunteers are former NFL players, current college players, players from the Air Force Academy, players from schools nationwide, local kids who have gone on and played in larger venues. And they give up that Saturday to come and spend time with our children. I just want to make sure we take real good advantage of that. I'm going to close with this. Conway, as I see it as a whole, is good at welcoming strangers. And I'll just generally say that strangers are those people we know little of or don't understand so well. How else could someone like me be elected Conway's mayor? A congressman once expressed disbelief in my being the mayor here, saying he didn't think Conway was so diverse. What he is unaware of is who Conwayites are and how they think. Hatred among people who don't even know each other, to me, makes no sense in a civilized world, but still it exists. Last Tuesday, people from, as I understand it, from outside our community came into Conway and infiltrated residential communities with hate messages. This time, the hate messages were directed at our Jewish neighbors. In my communications with one victim, I mentioned we were texting and I didn't know whether he knew me or not, but was in touch with me because I'm mayor. And I mentioned to him that I understood his pain because I am and have always been Black. And thus I have had such experiences my entire life through. The victim apologized to me that it took this to sensitize him to the plight of other people who are often the victims of hate. We cried together, understanding our shared pain. I'm aware that last week's messages of hate came from outside of Conway, likely even from out of state, but still, we're reminded of the existence of deep rooted hate in the hearts of people who live among us. Ill wishes and acts that make feelings burst into view. Angst against people for their race, for their religion, for their socioeconomic status, for their disability, for their sexual orientation, for their country of origin remains an issue in our culture and exists even in good old Conway. I'm not so naive as to believe it will ever end, but I will do what I can to help it become less and less an issue locally. A few people have identified themselves who I believe to be forward-thinking, aware, level-headed people who want to join hands in this regard, who believe that with our working together, that we may be able to make such incidents more rare, that people will become more comfortable within the confines of our city. That's not who Conway is. And I've lived here for the majority of, not quite Cheryl, but very close to 70 years. I'm asking that our staff devise a comprehensive plan to promote this work. It is worthwhile. It is menacing to people that we all care about. And we can't sit and act as if this doesn't happen. It just did on last Tuesday. We will now go into executive session, the purpose for which is to consider appointments to boards, commissions, and committees, and to discuss economic development relative to Project October. Afterwards, we will reconvene from executive session and be able to act publicly if anybody remains on anything that was discussed in executive session. I'll entertain a motion to close this portion of the meeting. Mr. White.
I move that we close this section of our meeting tonight.
Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Helms. A properly seconded motion. I'm sorry, Mr.
Could that motion be amended to go into executive session?
To go in and to go into executive session. Thank you so much.
And go into
you second
executive
that?
section.
Thank you so
Thank
much. So
Sorry.
that is the new motion. All in favor with the showing of your right hand, please. Motion carries unanimously, and we welcome anybody to wait until we come out. Nobody